Alright, I'm in my home office right now where I work and where I also edit movies. And I needed to find something in a photo album. So, remember photo albums? If you grew up in the 70s and the 80s, you knew what these things were. Not so much anymore. I don't think anybody keeps photo albums anymore. But the first one I grabbed, I opened, and yeah, there's a bunch of pictures of an old car I used to own. And I thought, you know what, I got to go through all of these, and I got to find all my old car pics. I got to get them on the computer because they're all turning red. So I got to do a little bit of color magic with them and save them digitally. And then I thought even more that maybe you're going to like to see what kind of cars we drove back in the day, back in the late 70s and early 80s. What we considered junkers, what we considered winter cars, and just day-to-day transportation, basically. The old burned out muscle cars from the 60s. So come along for a little nostalgia trip I'm going to go on and just document every car I've owned, almost. Might not have a picture of one of them. We'll see what we can do when we get there. And maybe this will bring back some memories of old cars you used to own too. Unfortunately, we didn't keep a lot of pictures of our cars back in the day. We weren't walking around with a camera all the time. You know, we didn't have a cell phone with 10,000 pictures on it. So let's take a look at all the cars I've owned since I was 15, all the way up till I'm 60. So 45 years worth of wheeling and dealing old cars. None of them meant to be collector's items. They were just cars that were available at the time. This is just what we drove. So without further ado, let's get the scanner rolling. Let's get all these pictures into it and deep dive into my car history. Yeah! Here I am at age 11 in 1974, building go-karts with my buddies. And the annual Soapbox Derby would take place just down the road from me. And you can see safety was obviously a top priority back then. Eventually, we needed more speed, of course, so off to Herbsville Raceway we'd go. I'm pretty sure I'm still 11 in this pic. And that was all well and good, but I wanted my own motorized vehicle. So at age 12, I assembled this beast from boxes of parts I bought from a friend's older brother. And I put about 1,000,000 miles on that old moped, riding around and around the old lumber yard down the road from my place. But then one day, my dad let me drive his 66 Plymouth Fury 3 out in a field by the airport. Then a year later, at the age of 13, it was time to learn a standard. So he'd have me on the back roads, learning how to shift and take corners in his 1970 MGB. And by the time I was 15, he'd bought an antique 1937 Hudson Terraplane. So I'd bomb around the back roads in that. So by the time I was 15, I was just bursting at the seams to buy my own car. So I took the money I earned working part-time as an usher over at the Festival Theater, and still at the age of 15 with no driver's license, drove this awesome piece of automotive engineering home, a 1974 Pontiac Astra. Sure, I still looked 11, but no, I was totally grown up at 15 years old. The car was a far cry from being ready for the road, but I was determined to have it ready for my 16th birthday. So for months I sat on this wash tub, cushioned by a life jacket, sanding, stuffing this car with can after can of Bondo until it was ready for paint. And of course, adding racing stripes. I was able to do the classroom part of driver ed when I was still 15, so as soon as I turned 16, it was just a few weekends on the road behind the wheel, and I had my beginner's license. And I drove this car back and forth through town like 732,000 times probably until the engine blew up, and I was sad. Until I found this. It's a 1969 Ford Ranchero in competition orange. I was still 16, so this was a lot of car for me. Had a 351 Windsor and a 4-speed manual on the floor. Had standard steering and standard brakes as well. Of course, the first thing I did was install a set of air shocks to get that rake you had to have in the late 70s. Now, the front and rear mags didn't even match, but I didn't care. I loved this car, or truck, or whatever, and planned on driving it forever and ever. But then this caught my eye. A 1966 Mercury Comet Caliente convertible with a 428 and a 4-speed on the floor. Had a zip-down rear glass window in that convertible roof, And guess what? This time the front and rear mags matched. I was just 18 when I bought this car. Sure, I couldn't grow a decent mustache yet, but driving a full-on 60s muscle car with standard steering and brakes should be no problem, right? This is the first car I didn't dare drive in the winter, so I picked up a cheap Pontiac Parisienne someplace, I don't even remember where. But soon after I found a 77 Chevy Scottsdale with a seized engine, so I yanked the engine out of the Pontiac and dropped it in the pickup. A stranger came along one day and asked if he could have the Pontiac. I said, sure, take it, for free. I patched the truck together with about 1,000,000 pop rivets and heating duct galvanized metal from the dump. So now I had a truck to haul my snowmobile around in winter, and a cool car for the summer. Everything was perfect. Well, after driving that Comet around for a couple of years, I started getting annoyed with the terrible handling and rattly shifter, and it turned out I wasn't really a convertible guy because, well, my perfect hair was getting all messed up all the time. That's no good. So then this came along, my 1973 GTO that I traded the Comet away for at a small used car lot. And I was thoroughly fleeced by the guy. Got the old, there's another guy, just went to the bank to get money, but if you pay way too much for it right away, we just might let you have it with a deposit of whatever you have in your pocket. Here, sign here. This was the first car I'd ever owned that I could actually handle. Could go around a corner nice and flat. It was a great car to drive. It had a 454 Chevy motor in it at the time, and it was just a blast to drive. I loved it. But then I blew up that Chevy motor in no time. I rebuilt it and, big lumpy cam in it and stuff, and it was super fast. But at 5 miles to the gallon, I was struggling to make this my daily driver. So right around then, I got my first grown-up job in a neighboring city that I took very seriously. So I needed a mature daily driver. I sold the GTO and the truck and bought this 1977 Buick Riviera. By far the most comfortable car I've ever owned, but it was boring as heck. Not even this dragster style steering wheel I put in it for some reason could liven up the drive. It was just dull. So I know what I'll do. I'll buy a Jeep for some reason. I'd go looking for trails and old gravel pits on weekends. It was a 304 V8 standard shift Levi edition Jeep. Kind of cool. It was lots of fun until I discovered, well, there was no metal under the paint. So out came the torches and another dump truck load of pop rivets and some actual real body metal this time. I stacked dual hockey pucks in place of body mounts and was off on a few more adventures. But then I suddenly decided I need a BMW. I got a job in the big city of London and everybody seemed to drive BMWs in the mid-'80s. So I became a yuppie. Well, briefly. Okay, it was getting to be a bit much just being 24 years old, living in a one-bedroom apartment with 3 cars. Something had to go. So let's see, which one has to go? Eeny, meeny, the Riviera sold. But then I learned repairs on a BMW are extremely expensive. And one day the exhaust fell off and it sat in the yard for a couple of years rusting out until someone offered me a few $100 to drag it away. So now I had a new wife and baby and I thought I need this. But then one day a friend of my neighbor's backed out of their driveway right into the side of this car. Well, I hated this car, so I just offered to sell the guy the whole car. Never mind with insurance and all that stuff, just give me some money. So then I upgraded to a bigger wagon, 1987 Olds. I loved this car, but it had too many problems, so it just sat. So now I'm back to daily driving the Jeep, and one day on the way home from work, the frame just decides to break. And a guy came along, offered to trade me for a old 85 Camaro. He always wanted a V8 Jeep, and yeah, take it away. So now I'm driving around in this Camaro. Didn't really like it, not my style of car. But guess what I found on the side of the road one day? For sale. You bet. It's coming home again. Sure, it had no engine or transmission now, but for $800, it's back in my driveway. And I still had the old wagon in the backyard, so out came the engine and plunked it right into the GTO. So now I'm rolling once again in my old GTO. But there's a problem. It is dead slow. It is one slow GTO. It was not fun to drive at all. I mean, I did drive it and did cruise around and go places, but it really needed some power. Now, if memory serves, it seems I got a little bit divorced around then. And the new girl had herself a 68 Firebird that had a really nice 389 engine in it. Just not correct for that car. It's supposed to be a 350 in that car. And being the nice guy that I am, I found a 350 for it. Nice Pontiac 350. So I'll just take that 389 from a 65 GTO off your hands. And one day I just swapped them around and everybody was happy. Especially when I found a tri-power setup for a 65 GTO and plunked that on. But after a while I had to park the car because I needed an economy car. Times were tough. So I bought this 1965 Comet. Standard everything. Not one single option on it. 3 in the tree, standard steering, standard brakes. So a couple years go by and one day in a parking lot some knucklehead decides to back right into the side of it. I was sitting in the car at the time so he couldn't drive away. I decided to take the insurance money and sell the car. So around this time I find myself single again with 2 kids, and I decide to do the mature thing and buy this. That's right, I decide to relive my childhood again by buying another Ranchero, even though it only has 2 seats. But hey, you're going to see the theme here. This car also got backed into when it was parked on the road. But that's okay, because I had recently just bought this. What is it, an 86, I think? Bronco 2. So while the Ranchero was in being fixed, I needed that to haul the kids around in, right? Because I'd kind of forgotten about that when I bought the Ranchero. Well, then I found something super cool, and I quick sold the Bronco and the Ranchero and got this. That's right, I decided to go through my pimp daddy phase in life. Black on black Lincoln Town Car, 1993. What a beast. I loved this car. Drove it for a couple of years. Then sold it because I found a car I've always wanted. 1995 Taurus SHO. I loved this car. It handled great. And I took it up past 135 miles an hour one time before I noticed this is like life-ending type speed if something went wrong. Turns out top end was really not my thing. Even entered it once in a show in Dearborn, Michigan, and won 3rd place. So I drove this car for many years, but I kind of needed a pickup truck as well. So I bought this 97 Ford F-150 with the 4.6 liter for a bit, and then got a more powerful 5.4 liter 2001, I think it was, F-150. But then I sold them both when I got a great deal in this little Chevy Z24. So somehow my, I guess, spirited driving in this car was a fun car. Led to a little stint on Canada's Worst Driver in 2006. So I took the opportunity to show everybody on the show that I was pretty much an expert at all things driving, but somehow got voted 4th worst driver in Canada and ended up with these stickers on my bumper. So not long after getting home from doing that show, you guessed it, someone backed in to that car. That's right, I'm 4th worst driver in Canada, never had an accident in my life, and once again, someone else backs into me. I was just stopped at a red light, waiting for it to turn green, and someone backed out of a driveway right in the side of me. So I got that car fixed and sold it. So once again, out comes the show. Okay, around this time I started restoring the GTO, but didn't get very far into it. Before I went through a series of Harley Davidsons, I suddenly just decided Harley Davidson was everything. Bought a 68 chopper as a project, and then it was an 87 Sportster, and then it was an 88 Softail, and then my current bike still have is a 2001 Road King. So this is 2013, and I had to sell the GTO because the motorcycle hobby was turning into something much bigger, and I knew I wasn't going to have time to fix the car up. Okay, I'm going to jump to the next section and just run it through it really quick in like a minute and 25 and a half seconds approximately, because it's not car related. It's like 6 years in between selling the GTO and getting it back again. So let's pound through this really fast and we'll get back to car stuff. Joined a motorcycle club, bought a toy hauler for outdoor parties. The F-150 struggled to pull it, bought an F-250 7.3-liter diesel. Problem solved, party on. Then I had a thought. With the help of great officers and members, formed a new chapter. Found a trash shop and transformed it into a kick-ass clubhouse. Threw many epic parties. Meet lots of awesome people. My daughter did too. Met my future wife. Then one day I just burned out and needed quiet fires in the backyard and quality time in my shop playing with my toys. Left the club scene in good. Bought a hot rod. I'll be back to this one in just a minute. Sold the show because having two hobby cars is ridiculous, right? The Falcon was great, but I missed my old GTO. Then one day a text came through. Hey, the GTO's for sale. Now it's back. It's rough. But look how the Falcon started. And look at it now.